From potentially ruining the franchise by introducing a new protagonist, to being a great alternative perspective for exploring the John Wick world, Ana de Armas Ballerina has been the cause of many doubts among the fans. And the biggest question is whether the film is actually a gift or a curse. Every time a new movie is announced in any franchise, the biggest question that fans ask is, will this ruin the franchise? And this gives rise to many more questions like, where do you draw the line between creative expression and intellectual property? What distinguishes a great franchise from a potential cash cow? And the John Wick franchise is no different. Since its debut in 2014, the films and the entire franchise felt like a piece of art and creative expression, and previously there were no spin-offs to potentially worry the fans. Yes, I know a TV show centered on the Continental is one of the many suspected spin-offs, but nothing official has ever been announced. That is, until Ballerina. No sequel in the John Wick franchise has felt like a cash grab as of yet, and the movies have instead concentrated on the protagonist's journey. Each follows logically on the heels of the last, but everything is about to change, for better or worse. Ballerina, the first John Wick spin-off picture, will be directed by Len Wiseman, and it will center on the Russian dance academy that appears to be a front for a school of assassins in the John Wick universe. In theory, more of anything involving Wick seems like a great time, but this film feels like it has the potential to ruin the John Wick franchise entirely. Let's start with the wise man of it all. What's Ballerina's most obvious flaw? Well, it's the movie's director himself, since Les Wiseman isn't the best filmmaker. From the 4 films he has directed, the best of these are the first 2 Underworld movies, which, let's be honest, even though they did well at the box office, weren't very good. His other movies include Live Free or Die Hard, which also failed to impress. So there's no point in talking about it. And the remake of Total Recall that came out in 2012, which you probably forgot existed until you heard me say it. So far, the John Wick series has been a lot of fun and very well done, and every film feels like a gem. Even if a spin-off or sequel was needed, Wiseman wouldn't be the right person to make it. Another thing to note is the fact that Ballerina is going to be centered around a woman, which makes Wiseman's pick even more confusing. There are plenty of skilled female filmmakers who should have been in charge. This adds to the feeling that this story is in the wrong hands in almost every way. One of the best parts about David Leitch and Chad Stahelski's John Wick is the few glimpses we get into the world that their protagonist is a part of. They understand that showing is more effective than telling, and that by showing just enough and not too much, the viewers can draw their own conclusions without losing the mystery that makes that world so interesting. So let's get into the Wick of it all. The thing is, John Wick's world isn't very interesting on its own. A society run by a hidden government of assassins is a cool idea, but movies like Hotel Artemis show that even the best world building is useless without interesting characters and a good storyline. It's easy to see why Lionsgate might want to get as much money as they can out of this golden goose, but it shows a basic misunderstanding of what has kept people interested in the series. The main character is the only reason why his world and the franchise feel interesting, because he's interesting. The Continental, the strange coins, and the markers are all interesting parts of making the world, but without the superb work of Keanu Reeves, they're just props. And at this point, I don't think anyone can replace him as John Wick, not even Ana de Armas. The franchise risks losing its audience if too much information is revealed and the backstory is explained through spin-offs. This ultimately leads to the conclusion that there is no need for a Ballerina movie, especially not one that Len Wiseman will direct, but since the movie is already on its way, I hope the brand will be able to handle it, because for the first time, it doesn't feel like the John Wick series has a sure future. And who knows, maybe it will be a good addition to the mythology of the series. On paper, the movie seems like a true gift for the fans. The movie's official synopsis doesn't give anything away, which is good, kind of keeping up with the theme of the movies. But according to the synopsis, Ballerina takes place in the expanded world of John Wick. The film will reportedly take place between the events of John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, and John Wick Chapter 4. John Wick Chapter 4 and Ballerina screenwriter Shay Hatton has hinted that the origin of John Wick would be expanded upon in the spin-off film, which will focus on a new character, Chapter 3's ballerina assassin, Rooney. The film will follow her as she embarks on a mission to avenge her family. Rooney shares a similar origin to Wick himself, and if the creators do it right, she can be an equally interesting character. But it might also be a red flag, considering we might learn a bit more than we need to know about Wick's origin. Luckily, Hatton revealed that the story takes place in a whole different part of the world than the John Wick films. The screenwriter also mentioned that the original story took place in the Swiss Alps, a location never before visited by the John Wick films, and that he's thankful that they were able to stay true to the original story of that script from Ballerina without stepping on John Wick's toes. So, Ballerina is connected to the main John Wick universe, but is different enough to not hurt the franchise? That's like music to my ears, honestly. But still, some fans worry that this spin-off will replace John Wick Chapter 5. More importantly, Ana de Armas replacing Keanu Reeves as the main character in the John Wick series. But in all honesty, it could be great for the franchise. Even though Keanu Reeves' character has been the main draw of the series so far, Ballerina could be a fresh take on the formula. The action that makes the series so popular could stay in Ballerina, and Ana de Armas' character could show the audience a new side of John Wick's complicated world. Plus, we can still have Reeves' character play very crucial roles in the franchise. And from a story point of view, Ballerina could give John Wick's plot even more depth. The director's appearance in John Wick 3 and the hints about how John Wick became an assassin is very interesting, and this all sets up Ballerina perfectly. The movie would be a great way to learn more about the group that turned John Wick into the assassin we love. Since Keanu Reeves is in it, Ballerina could even have John Wick teach Rooney how to tear down the world he's come to hate by acting as her instructor. Even though John Wick 5 could have an interesting story, I think that Ballerina has a lot more promise. So, where does Ballerina fit in exactly? At the start of Chapter 4, John is hiding out in the sewers of New York City, training to take revenge on those who betrayed him. And we know Chapter 4 takes place roughly 6 months after Chapter 3. So what happened to John in the intervening months is still unknown, but it's safe to presume he wasn't on an international trip with Rooney. Still, Reeves has been confirmed for a role in Ballerina, so maybe Wick took shelter in the Ruska Roma to heal his wounds. There is a big possibility since both Rooney and Wick trained in that organization. McShane and the late Lance Reddick were recently interviewed, and it was revealed that both of their roles will be significantly underutilized in the upcoming film, Ballerina. While Reddick emphasized how their participation in it is so much about helping the audience understand that it's part of the same world, McShane revealed that they all have cameos in it. This means that John Wick's plot and Rooney's development will stay essentially separate. We'll have to wait to find out exactly what goes down. Until then, that was all on whether Ballerina will be a gift or a curse to the John Wick franchise. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.